Welcome, everyone, to In the Driver's Seat, the podcast that's all about exploring how to improve the value of your business, helping business owners positioning themselves ultimately for a successful exit. My name is Simon Zryd, and together with Steven Kohnke, we co-host this podcast. We're both partners at Denver Business Coach, certified exit planning advisor, certified value builders, and together with a team of 9 other advisors, work with lots of business owners in that sphere of value building and then eventually helping them exit and successfully sell their business. We've been doing that for almost a decade now. And this podcast in particular aims to make the discussion of building a valuable, sellable business more accessible and accessibly earlier to business owners than when they're just thinking about it a few months before they're ready to sell their business. We started this podcast this year primarily driven by 2 key statistics that we're looking to change. And I'll turn it over to Steven to introduce those statistics.
Yes, thank you. So those stats that we're looking to change here are 3 out of 4 businesses that go to sell on the open market do not sell. And for those business owners who are trying to sell, so anywhere from 70 to 90% of their wealth is tied up in that business, meaning they need to be able to sell that company, their business, in order to close their wealth gap, and that's a pretty big gap to close if they're not setting up their business to be sold the right way and be one of those 4. We are trying to change that number and make it a lot more accessible for business owners to sell their business.
Yeah. And, in these last 2 episodes, and then today's a third one, we've started to focus on the business owner themselves and how their performance is directly correlating with the business's performance. The earlier episodes were very much focused on how do we build the business and what needs to happen in terms of metrics, KPIs.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about the different capitals and lenses through which to look at your business and areas that you can identify to improve on to get the highest return for your effort. And in the last couple episodes, we've really started focusing on the business owner themselves and how they are showing up on a day-to-day is impacting the business and what can they do to kind of like situate themselves in a way that kind of like brings forth peak performance or the best version of themselves.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about tribe. We talked about keeping the business and the identity separate, identify as someone that owns a business rather than being a business owner, having a good group of advisors there, understand how to deal with criticism. And today we want to zoom into something that I believe every business owner is struggling with to some extent or another. And that's really the topic of second guessing themselves. Mm-hmm. And I think we want to start out with the biggest decision they have, which ultimately is the sale of their business and how to structure that deal and what to do after. And then we're going to bring it back a little closer into the day-to-day operations. Mm-hmm. So there's some interesting statistics out there. Steven, I'll let you maybe lead with that around, what happens to business owners after they've exited their business? Are they all riding off to the sunset and live life happy ever after?
That's what they hope, right?
Yeah.
Well, Exit Planning Institute, who does a lot of polling of business owners around the situation of exiting their business in some way or another. And they discovered that about 75% of business owners regret the sale of their company a year afterwards, and only 5% are happy with the number that they sold for at that point in time as well. And my kind of half joking line here when I'm talking to business owners about this, or really anyone, is drinking margaritas on the beach only gets you so far. And if you're spending it gets old, right? And that if you don't have a plan after the sale of your company, entrepreneurs need to be building something and really be actively engaged. And if that's your plan after you sell your business, you're not going to be happy. So you really got to put together we refer to as the life after sale action plan. What are you going to be doing to help curb those stats?
Mhm. Yeah, so it's interesting because there's two metrics in there. One is not being happy with the sales price ultimately, or the net proceeds of the deal. And then the second piece is more less tangible, but is more related to what is next, right? Like we have talked about it in terms of push pull factors, like what do you want to get away from, but what are you moving towards? And if that's you, so you're saying if that's not clear for business owners and that's not set up, there's a big hole,
Yeah.
like in terms of like usually the business takes a lot of attention and energy and thought and fills conversation, brings relationships. There's a lot that kind of like completes after you as an owner exit the business as
Yeah.
well.
Mm-hmm.
So okay, we're the topic today is like second guessing. So and kind of like our point that we want to bring across is like don't be a Monday morning quarterback.
Yeah.
Meaning, you're on the pitch, you got to make decisions. Don't sit back and just keep second guessing yourself in a way that is not productive, right?
But it's the hindsight thing, right?
Yeah.
Coulda, shoulda, woulda. Of, oh, if I only did this, then this would have been better. Or, maybe if I could have done that, um, that's just a recipe for unhappiness in itself, of just continuously looking back and saying, oh, I should have done this. Maybe I would have been happier if I did that. So I think that that's really what that part is getting to is, make that decision and continue on.
Yeah, you have so much. I was thinking about this, like it's I know I don't want to minimize the
Right. Right.
the big decision that it is, but like so often, like if you play a computer game and you try something, you save it, and then you can load from when you started and try something different, right? Or like there's a lot of times in life where I would say the cost of the decision is not as big as it is in business ownership. So I do want to maybe highlight that for business owners, when it comes to the sale of their company, obviously that's about as big of a life decision that you can make for a lot of business owners. So it it I think the bigger the decision, the higher the risk. The the more we're worrying about it, the more we're concerned, the more we're second guessing ourselves, or even before we're doing, even if we're leaning towards a way, we start second guessing ourselves. So
Mhm.
I think there is a reality to it is going to be part of our existence as business owners
Mhm.
is second guessing. So maybe what I think would be helpful is to explore some strategies around how do you mitigate that?
Mhm.
What can you do to say, okay, can you feel good about I'm getting all the data that I can, I make the best decision possible, and now I'm going to move forward.
Yeah. And being okay with that, and just recognizing that you have everything you need at this point in time, or you have everything you're going to get at this point in time, to make a well-informed decision. And whatever happens after that, whatever information happens after that, it happens afterwards. That's not the information you had at that point in time to make a decision. So to to judge your decision based on information you came across after the fact, whether or not it was available at that point in time, I think is a recipe for regret. It's looking backwards, right, and saying,
Yeah, I think the way I just connected, I think the way that I relate to it is, if you never tackle the challenge of second guessing yourself,
Mm.
100% you're going to second guess yourself after
Yeah.
you start the business. So
Sure. Yeah.
you don't solve it by just one time not second guessing yourself. You have to become a person
Mm-hmm.
that is not prone to second guessing yourself or be okay with taking the action. And I think that's the part, the more you can practice this as you're
Mm-hmm.
going through business ownership, number one, it helps you be a better leader and owner and less paralyzed and all of that. But
Mm-hmm.
then I think it positions you to be less prone to second guessing yourself after you sell the business.
Yeah. That's a great point. I think that it's a conditioned mindset.
Yeah. Yeah, because so now let's talk about how would we say, okay, you're a business owner, you have big decisions. Obviously, there are big decisions, meaning sometimes you need to let people go, sometimes you need to make decisions about people's careers, about your own family, etc. So you have big decisions. People are counting on you. How do you become a person that is not paralyzed in fear or that is not like overthinking things too
Mhm.
much, and that even that truly lives what I would say, that quote of like you're either winning or you're learning, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
And that's so easy to be said because a lot of people are not winning and then they're worrying, they're putting themselves down. So what are some strategies, like how do you work with business owners saying, okay, this is the information we have, we gotta move forward.
The one thing that came to mind when you were saying that is, and I don't know who to attribute this to. I know um, someone said it, but fail forward. Have you ever heard? Yeah, be like recognize that failure isn't necessarily failure, and it's better to try something and not succeed, and then learn from it, like you said, and try it again, and just kind of adopting that mindset of it doesn't have to be perfect. You just got to do it. Um, at least on the micro level of decision making within your business and being okay with what comes afterwards. Being having the mindset of whatever comes at me after this decision, I can handle. I find, the business owners I work with that are best at that, at making decisions, quick decisions, adopt that type of a mindset of, yeah, let's just go this way and then figure out what the next thing is, and the next thing, and the next thing. And it's just kind of like this. They're just trying to build that momentum to keep going. And momentum is built through action and making decisions to do something,
Yeah,
anything.
yeah. I think one thing that I'm reading in between the lines here also is it's a skill that I don't think we talk about too much, but it is becoming good at making decisions. Like, what is your process for making decisions, right? Because we all go through it one way or another. And it's usually like there's some form of data collection going on.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's some form of evaluating that data.
Mm-hmm.
And then there is the point of where you're making that decision. But I think as an owner, you can actually put structure to this or kind of like try to optimize what that would look like. Like, how do you gather information? How much information is enough information? How do you um, qualify or make sure that the information you have is actually good information and not just some statistics you pulled that's 10 years old. Um, and then, and then the second thing is like evaluating, like, okay, how do you go through a pro and con list? Do you have a mastermind group? Do you have a business coach, or do you have someone that helps you get to your position? And then maybe there's one other step you want to do before, and then do it. And I think there's something in there that I think a lot of business owners, they just say, well, I just got to make a decision, but they never really examine how do they
How?
how do they come to, and how can I optimize myself and my process to get to better decisions? Because in my mind, if you make better decisions, your probability of second guessing yourself should get reduced as
Mm-hmm.
well. Um, Do you have a process there, or do you have something that you go through with business? Because a lot of what we do is help business owner facilitate decision making, right? Yeah.
That's in one of our surveys of our clients that we're working with. That was one of the number one things that was reported as a benefit of working with us is making better, faster decisions that pan out most of the time.
Yeah.
Uh, and I think it follows a similar path. I'm just trying to think through a couple bigger decisions that we've had to make in the past, but really evaluating, taking information into, like, for instance, hiring or firing someone. Weighing in opportunity costs, so doing the pros and cons lists. Do we have, if you're going to hire someone, do you have the financials to support it? And we're kind of hitting those key factors of those key business factors, rather, like the financial components, and then understanding what the needs are. And, at some point, you just got to say, hey, I have taken, for instance, the hiring situation. I think I have enough information. This person seems to align with, our values, our culture, seems to align with the job that we need to have done, um, and pull the trigger and then see how it pans out. Sometimes it does. Yeah, I'm sure you've worked with people where you've made bad hires. I've had several of those, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And I think people is really tough to, it's another one of those really big decisions that I think a lot of business owners have regrets, or that 2020 hindsight of, shit, I should not have hired that person.
Mhm.
It ended up being not working out. And I think that's a prime example of having using the information that you have at that point in time, making the best decision you can, and then moving forward and
Yeah.
dealing with the
Yeah.
next thing.
And understanding that I always, we used to work with a printing company, and one of their worst performing products by far were always business cards,
Mm-hmm.
because they're super low profit margin, and it's one of the things that, especially startup owners, spend weeks
Yeah.
about trying to design it and what should it say and whatnot. And when you look at it, I mean, obviously it was frustrating for our client to some extent, because you still want to do good customer service. And after two revisions, you just lose money, period. Um, but but as a business owner, how much time are you spending for the type of problem you're looking to solve? Like having an awareness of, like, okay, I just need to make a call on this. It doesn't matter so much if it's right or wrong, and I just need to move forward. And the lack of decision is actually costing me more than whatever way I'm going to go. Versus, okay, this is something I want to discuss with my business coach. This is something I want to discuss with my team. This is something I want to talk to my spouse about, or to my mastermind group. Like having an understanding of what kind of decision or how much time and evaluation something uh, takes, I guess, or should take.
What level? Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
versus not. Because anyway, it sounded like you can relate to the lack of decision is often the biggest cost ultimately.
Yeah. And I lean more in the direction of make a decision and then we'll figure it out.
Yeah,
Uh, what's next? Because to me, it's obviously we want to make informed decisions and calculated risks, but we don't want to spend too much time trying to figure out if we should or shouldn't.
yeah, yeah. I think with, the like we started the example with selling a business, like that is an example where we talk about planning 3 to 5 years, having your advisory team, that like that is something that you actually do spend a lot of time, or should be. And I wouldn't be surprised that a good chunk of the people that weren't happy after sale are people that haven't gone through an exit planning
Oh,
process,
yeah. Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Um,
Didn't have the right people on their team, didn't, have the right questions asked of them. And just said, hey, I'm going to sell my business. Okay.
yeah, sounds good. I'm burned out. I'm ready to leave. So I think that obviously is something where you should spend a lot of time thinking about. and planning for it. Yeah. So okay, so to summarize where we're traveled so far, I would say um, it's okay to be second guessing. It's always going to be there,
Mhm.
but understand what what type of decision is it? What how much thinking and risk is really involved should be involved with it. Understanding or maybe think a little bit about your decision making process so that you can optimize the different stages of data gathering, evaluation, sounding board, and ultimately making a decision. Um, and so those are like the two main areas we've talked about. And what else would you say we can zoom in on?
Yeah, I think, overall, out of all the years we've been doing this, I think the biggest risk is inaction. If we're looking at inside a business from a business owner, is, the analysis paralysis, really just not doing something.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I think the more business owners can adopt a mindset of let's keep moving, let's make decisions and deal with it,
Yeah.
um, the better off and the better off they're going to be from a learning perspective and a growth perspective, I would say.
Yeah. I agree. I think a bias towards action is how I would describe that. And I do think most business owners, there's like this. I have one couple that I work with, and I always say one of the owners is very reactionary, like this happens, therefore.
Mhm.
And the other person I would describe as she's generating her reality by the action she's taking.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah.
Where it's not you don't always like whatever planning you do, unless you're taking the action, you actually don't know what the results are going to be. Like,
Mhm. Right.
that favorite saying of any plan is good until you get
Get punched in the mouth or yeah.
punched in until you go into action and then everything changes. So
Yeah.
the idea that you can actually pre-plan everything or most things is just like a false,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
it's just not a reality. So therefore, in business ownership, being in action usually outperforms over analytical,
Yeah.
approach. Yeah,
Yeah. Good.
yeah. I think those were some interesting concepts to be, and like with anything, I think what we talk about, it's good to have an awareness about, and then for the listeners, to reflect, okay, like how can I apply that, or how does that apply to me, or where do I stand on that continuum? Maybe I should be more in action. Maybe I should evaluate my decision making process, because there's plenty of people that are just going and never getting traction because they're
Yeah. Spinning the wheel. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So okay, cool. I enjoyed this conversation,
Yeah.
Steven. Thank you. And to our listeners again, thank you for tuning in today. We hope you enjoyed the conversation, and looking forward to being with you next week when we talk about other ways to grow your business.
Oh yeah. All right.
Thank you, guys. Bye.
Yeah.